Greetings loyal subscribers and honoured guests. Welcome to Covertape Chaos 55. This time there are just 3 items on the power pack. Hopefully the quality will make up for the quantity though. We have the full version of Sceptre of Baghdad from John Wells, and then 2 PD games, Stars and Rings and Squarescape 2. I found the last tape rather frustrating for various reasons, so I'm hoping this one will be a bit kinder to my nerves. Let's get stuck in and find out. The entirety of Side A is taken up by Sceptre of Baghdad, which is not really surprising as it's quite a whopper of a game. This was one of Cytronic's earliest releases, an independent software publisher that are still going strong today and releasing both physical and digital versions of brand new games for classic computers on a regular basis. An evil wizard has shrunk your player character, the Caliph, in order to prevent you from completing the ceremony where you hold aloft the sceptre of the title. It's your job to explore the palace, solve puzzles and eventually find the sceptre so you can put an end to the wizard's evil plan. If you've ever played a Dizzy game or something similar, then you will be quite familiar with the way that Sceptre of Baghdad works. You can hold a maximum of 3 objects at a time, and pressing F1 will cycle through your slots. A great deal of time is spent roaming around the many rooms, looking at the items that can be picked up, and then figuring out where you might use them in order to make progress. I've never really been a huge fan of the Dizzy series, but Sceptre of Baghdad doesn't feel quite as unforgiving as those. The platforming is actually pretty decent, and I wasn't dying every few minutes. I could actually see myself getting into this and spending a fair amount of time with it. The graphics are nicely drawn with some great use of colour. There's even an option for choosing a different coloured background at the start, based on whether you own an old C64, a C64C, or would like something that would work with both. You also have the option of music or sound effects while you play the game. I always go with music if possible, and the tune that plays while you explore is very nice indeed. The sound effects are also decent, with a very nice sproing sound when you jump, and a rather convincing noise that signifies when you are being turned to stone by a Gorgon, for example. But given the choice, I will stick with the music option most of the time. Overall, this is a very high quality package and an extremely solid opener to this issue's tape. Let's flip over to Side B now and see if the other 2 games can keep up the quality level. The first of these is Stars and Rings, a fairly simple yet challenging game. The actual concept is really simple. You control a star in the middle of the square and various rings will appear at random. When you press and hold the fire button, your star will move around in a circle, and then when you release the button it will move off in whatever direction it was pointing at. The idea is to collect a certain number of rings with your star to complete the level. However, any collision with the outer square will cost you a life. This is where it gets tricky because you don't have much room to manoeuvre, and your star hurtles across the box at an alarming rate. Getting good at this one will take a fair amount of practice, I reckon. In terms of presentation, it's fairly simple, with functional but hardly mind-blowing visuals and sound effects. There is no music to be found here. I like the idea of this game. At the moment I'm pretty rubbish with it, but given a bit of time and effort I might get better. Not bad at all. We conclude Power Pack 55 with Squarescape 2, a puzzler that has been programmed exclusively for Commodore format, though it did appear on a German cover tape later on as well. In this game you control a square and it is your task to collect each of the tokens on the screen before getting to the exit, all within a fixed number of moves. This starts off being nice and easy for the first handful of levels, but it doesn't take very long before things get considerably harder. This is a very nice puzzle game and I was enjoying it a lot until I got stuck. I'm not sure that the game needs a finite number of lives. I think it would be improved by letting the player have as many tries as they need to proceed, because this was one of those types of games where you need to experiment and fail a few times in order to figure out the correct solution. The visuals are nice and neat, and there are some funky tunes that play in the background that kind of remind me of some of the music from Creatures. I recently read a news article on the Commodore Format Archive website that revealed that the original creator of this game, Paul Kubitsin, has been hard at work on an updated iOS version called Escape. It takes the gameplay of the 2 old C64 games and brings them up to date with some new ideas and high-res visuals. I can see how this game would work very well on a phone or other mobile device. If you were a fan of Squarescape 2 back when it first appeared on the Power Pack, or if you've only got into it recently, you should check out the update on the Apple Store. Hopefully it will get ported over to Android as well for us folk who aren't into fruit-based devices. That brings us to the end of another Power Pack, and I have to say this really was a great one. Although there were slightly fewer games than most, none of them were duds, and I find myself wanting to spend more time with all of them. Hopefully this will continue into Power Pack 56. Join me again in 2 weeks' time to find out. In the meantime, take care.